special guest for you tonight.
Hello, we've been expecting you.
This is not a test. Your government and corporate overlords have implemented new measures for your own health and safety. We are just following orders.
Everything is going to be fine.
I'd like to introduce...
Welcome, everyone, to another If by Whiskey. Jake,
Yes.
This one's exciting. We have not just a special guest, we've got special guests.
Pluralized.
All right, man.
What's going on, man? Did you see I got my cool sign up?
Yes, I saw Jake's take. I'm very excited about that. You see, I still have a blank canvas because Jesse told me to remove all my cool stuff. So
I see that. I got some books, so I look like I read.
I like it. I got some audiobooks over here, but you can't see them. They're invisible. But I got
a laser etched copy of the Constitution behind me, so that's my good reference.
Wow. And the Constitution, great. So it's already been violated, man. So what you use as toilet paper?
Constitution, right?
How does that feel? How does laser etching feel when you wipe your butt with it? Does it feel pretty good? Or?
No, as you know, I'm slowly moving from Washington to Oregon. So this is the Oregon house, and I took a load of stuff down here a couple days ago and brought some of the accoutrement for the background so that I could look at least more professional than I am.
I like it. Well, I'm very excited. So are you ready to get to this? Because
I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this one. I'm a big fan of these guys. I'm a consumer of the content, if you will. I'm going to let you do the intro because you had the cool name for him, though. But we're very grateful to talk with him.
Let's thank Misfit Bunny, right, who connected us, and she just followed us on her channel. So thank you, Misfit Bunny. She told you to reach out to these people. So without further ado, I know we're the power couple of liberty. I know that everyone, there's this big controversy, but it's a big thing. But we happen to have the power couple of open-mindedness, curiosity, conspiracies, ideas, intellect, and all things great. I give you Natali and Clayton of Redacted News, everyone. Welcome.
Did it make it seem like we perpetuate conspiracies or we break them down?
Or we bring them?
Yeah, we don't perpetuate conspiracies.
Yeah, you're the flint. You're the flint to the
we break them down. We try to.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Well,
Thank
welcome.
you. And by the way, the fact that we can actually have whiskey and enjoy. I mean, we've been working all day, and so that we can hang out for a little while and just have some whiskey and hang out with you guys and talk about the world and talk about America. Cheers.
Fun times.
Cheers to that.
Oh,
cheers.
We are so grateful for cheers as well. And if you're familiar with the If by Whiskey fallacy from Noah Sagi Sweat's speech, you might even know about that. And that's where this whole show comes. But it's funny that Jake is Whiskey Smiles on X. I mean, it's just such a perfect combination. So welcome and cheers, and welcome everyone to the Redacted team. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, I'm excited for the conversation. Great to hang out with you guys.
I got to say, I got to jump right into this. I was first made aware of Clayton on Tucker's show, and I'm sure you probably hear that quite a bit, but my first introduction to you was on Tucker's show. And, you know, again, all jokes aside, like the things that you bring up and talk about, I wouldn't call conspiracy as much as I would call truths that are kind of below the surface that you seem to have zero issue just throwing out and discussing. And I completely respect that. You're a man after my own heart in that way, where I don't have the breadth of knowledge, and I've tried to consume as much of your content as I can. I work a ton. I've got 3 kids, so it's one of those things where I try and catch what I can, but it seems like every time I open my YouTube, there's another video from you guys, and they are super top notch, super high production value. I know we missed David here earlier that stepped out, but you guys have an amazing product, and I'm really interested and excited on getting to know you guys a little bit more tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that. And yeah, I mean, it's good I think on our side, because and I was thinking about that with Tucker, or just anytime, you know, like you're a guest, I don't care. I just don't care, you know, and I used to work in the mainstream media. We both used to work in the mainstream media. but we work for ourselves. And if we're exploring a topic, we've been reading about a topic, we've been poring over books on a topic, we've been interviewing sources on a topic, you know, who have not come forward or who I haven't had on the show yet, but I've been talking with them for a year about a subject. And then I'm able to just go out and say it. It's very liberating, actually, to not worry like that you're going to get a call from like Rupert Murdoch or somebody like that where you can't talk about that subject. So
I could imagine. I
just pulled the filter off. It feels nice.
That is one of my questions, actually, is even before you said that, I had a pretty good hunch that you had some sort of history in media and some sort of background. So it definitely shows. But if you don't mind, without giving away anything you don't want to, what was your start? How did you get into media, and what made you guys decide to start your own thing?
Well, we met on Fox News because Clayton was the anchor of Fox and Friends, and I was a reporter for CNET.
Did you take it up with HR before you continued?
Well, I was a guest. I didn't work for Fox, so we didn't have to do it that way. And so both of us were working in broadcast news in New York City. And so he had been a reporter and anchor for various small markets before getting to New York City and moving to the network. I was a writer and went straight to the network because, you know, video podcasting was started to get big. I was one of the first sort of tech video podcasters early on. And so we both met working in the mainstream media. So yeah, that's a brief story of it.
Yeah, I mean, she started as a newspaper reporter, and she's being modest about it. And you know, but she started as a writer, and that's where that was her beat. You know, as a newspaper reporter, and I was a media. I was a broadcast journalist. So I started out in Montana as a political reporter covering the governor for CBS News back in the day, and then lived all over the country as a broadcast journalist. And so when we started the show, I mean, I started the show basically solo, and then I convinced her, harangued her, you know, and said, you're wasting your talents. You're wasting your talents just...
Also, it's hard. It's hard to do it by himself. And a lot of times he would, and we're both voracious readers. And so when the show began, it was around the COVID pandemic. We were living in Europe, and he thought, well, we have this 5-hour jump on the United States, so let's get to the news, and we can digest it faster than anybody else because we're awake. And so, you know, I was writing a newsletter, and he was doing the show by himself, and it was very natural because we'd been broadcasters for so long. It was our talent, our training, our vocation. And then, you know, he was doing the show daily, and it just is so much work by himself. And then sometimes I would do some research, and I'd be like, well, you need to work in this, or what about this? You need to know this. And he's like, you need to say it yourself. You need to get on the show and do it with me. And, you know, we'd already worked together. We'd built a few companies together. So when we argue about things as husband and wife, we can do that on camera in a way that we hope doesn't alienate our audience, but it's all in good fun, mostly.
It takes a special skill to work with your spouse. My wife and I both met at work. We did end up going to HR, and we're like, all right, we both quit the job and went and started a company because of that similar situation.
Wow.
But it takes a different level of commitment and a higher level of communication, at least from my experience, to be able to work with your spouse, and it takes like almost like serial killer version of like separating work from home. Like you have to have a complete, again, speaking for myself, it has to be a complete separation because you don't want things to bleed together. But that's mine.
Do you think we do a good job of that though? Like the serial killer separation?
I don't know. You know, the way I see it, when we were having our first child, there was the woman who lived down the hall who was having her baby the same week, remember?
Yeah.
And she said to me, look, when you're married, you are in business together, whether you like it or not. And I remember thinking, this New York City brand new mom just dropped a truth bomb on me, because if you don't realize that you are in business together when you get married, you're kind of screwed, because you should have goals to grow your finances, to grow your life, to advance. And if this person is not who you are advancing those goals are, but that person is actually not working with you, you're kind of in trouble, right?
Yeah.
You can't have someone working against you in your house. So I have always felt that way. So every time we make an investment or we go through our finances or we decide to build something new or move somewhere else, I just face it very practically as, we are co-owners, co-conspirators in this scheme. So I don't feel like it should be that hard. I'm just I don't know. Maybe I'm a little.
No, I mean, that's an excellent way to put it. I mean, I definitely stand corrected. I understand completely where you're coming from. It is interesting to me too that you guys can come from quote unquote traditional media and make this. I mean, Clayton seems like he had like the Ron Burgundy trajectory, whiskey and all, but
Exactly.
to go through that and to be able to make a transition and start something and build something and have an audience and work for yourself. Like there's so many people other than the Tuckers and the like, maybe the marquee names, but there's so many people who have tried that have not done, not been successful. So definitely kudos to you guys for that. It's a hell of a thing you've built.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, Tucker and I have talked about this. It's, during the commercial breaks when he and I worked together at Fox, it was like, I was building a business. I'm in Capricorn, so I can't just like sort of sit still. It's very hard for me to relax.
We got to do astrology now on top of it. Oh, come on, man. We got enough of this stuff to talk about tonight.
She's the one that puts me on the astrology bit. But yeah, and it's like I've got to be building something. I got to be creating something, even if it's something stupid that no one ever sees the light of day. It's just like I've got to be doing that. So yeah, I think when building something and like, Tucker and I would talk about like building a business or building something outside of the mainstream media. The reason I think that so many, I've thought about this a lot actually, that like the Don Lemons of the world, they go out or, and they're like, you're going to come over here from CNN and watch my show from CNN. And you realize, no, that was a fabrication to begin with. No one was actually watching you to begin with. No one cares that you're now carrying the same. You're literally doing the same thing you were doing at CNN, which is carrying the water for the CIA or the deep state or an extension of this Mockingbird media. And now you're going to do it on your own. Like, who the hell wants to sit and watch Don Lemon's like Don Lemon light version of CNN?
Yeah, and when
I just watched Multiplicity. I just watched Multiplicity, and I thought, when you make a copy of a copy, it's not quite as sharp as the original. That's what that is. That's a great movie. Literally what that is.
We got to add that to our family movie list. We have a running family movie list where we're trying to educate them.
Three. Okay, first of all, you can't watch the third one, but 3 of the greatest movies in the history have Andy McDowell of all people as the leading star. Groundhog Day, Multiplicity, and Hudson Hawk. A very highly underrated movie.
Hudson Hawk was a good movie.
Bruce Willis and who's the deep voice that remember the guy who was like the old guy, George, I forget his name, but he was like, he passed recently. Anyway,
it's been so many years
since
I've seen
a plug for that movie. But that's what you're talking about. That's what Don Lemon was. He was a copy of a copy already, and it's already like fuzzy to begin with, right?
That's a great way to put it. And these people don't read. They read the things that are at Barnes and Noble. All Barnes, if you read the books that are, front shelf at Barnes and Noble, it wants you to get a divorce, it wants you to be gay, it wants you to, I don't know. It's all a leftist agenda.
I went into Barnes and Noble. I went into Barnes and Noble recently, and they have an entire section on divorce. Like it's like right in the front. Like, hey, what about family? No.
Next to the self-help. Is it right next to like finding a relationship, divorce, and self-help? Is that just?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Like okay, because they're all related to each other.
Right. So these people are not actually reading books to break down narratives. They're reading books to reinforce their narratives. And we know because we worked in the mainstream media. And these people are not coming like, like I remember going to CNBC, we were doing Closing Bell. And I was like, I was just reading blah, blah, blah. And they all laughed. Like, we don't read that. That's not Andrew Sorkin. That's like, we just don't do it, And so if they're not pushing themselves outside of what they were doing when they're in the mainstream media, why the heck do you want to watch them just because they're in their house?
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that I see too is like most of those people are so concerned with their ratings and that they're carrying water and making sure that they're getting the eyeballs they're supposed to get or that they're trying to get, that it's like the message is secondary or even third. And it seems like that's the huge differentiator between you guys is you can tell when you're giving, news, or when you're reading your pieces that you put together, that it's thoughtful, that it's educated, and there's a lot behind it, but you're also saying things that you actually believe, and it comes across really authentic.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, because we write our own stuff, in the segments that we do, and so like I'm not gonna do something that someone else has written for me, and that's the benefit of not working in the mainstream media anymore. It's just, it's as Tucker likes to say, they lie by omission. So a lot of you'll come in and you've got, okay, here's the 4-hour show that you're doing. Okay, this is the framework, but it's all the stuff that you intentionally left out. Yeah, that we're not doing it in the show, and you're not saying that we're not doing it, but because we're never doing it, that's how your narrative is built at Fox News or MSNBC. It's just the unsaid. Yeah. And that's how they lie. That's how they obscure.
And then pretty soon you're Brian Stelter.
Right. Oh,
I've seen like, I've always called the left media a little bit more of the lying, like to create the fabrication, and the Fox media more of a contextual lying, right? Kind of like by your point, live omitting. Yeah. They'll omit the contextual parts that shade in the part that actually matters to tell the story properly.
Yes. They intentionally leave it out. So they'll tell you the story, but they're leaving out the entire other piece, and they do it very artfully, because the producers will build it and craft it that way. So, yeah, that's exactly right. That's a good way to look at it.
To go back to the stuff you guys have been putting out, like I said, I genuinely try and follow as much as I can, but I've been trying. I mean, it seems like we went from Venezuela to Greenland in like 10 minutes as far as regular mainstream's going, and I was really captured by Mark. You have that clip ready, I believe, the first one. I was really captured.
I'm ready to go. You let me know when to hit it.
By this guy that you had on talking about, and the word escapes me at the moment, but there's a picture in here with the map that he was explaining.
Technate.
Yes, and I have been, full disclosure, I never paid we've talked about this before. I'll be quick, but I never paid much attention to media really until COVID. COVID was kind of my red pill, like so many other people. And I started realizing that there is so much of a mechanism behind everything, and that so much of this stuff is put into motion years or decades before it even happens. And that it also is cyclical, and they'll try something that doesn't work. They wait a generation, they try again. But one of the things that I was really fascinated learning about was the Technate and the plan to really take all of North America. And it really kind of seems like that's where we're heading. So if you want to play it, Mark, I'd love to. I know it was your clip, but I want to get some more of your context on the other side.
The experts running society, essentially, there would be no more voting, no democracy, anything like that. You would get these so-called experts and engineers to run the machines, as they used to say. I think today we would probably consider that to be AI and a lot of the technology we have today. And that these experts would micromanage all of society. They would allocate resources. They promised it would be utopia. They also did mention that it would involve the loss of privacy and some personal freedoms and things like that. But that technocratic movement, when it was growing, they had this vision of what they called the Technate, the North American Technate, how they wanted to control the North American continent. They specifically say as far up as Greenland, all of Canada, all of the US and Mexico, and Panama, and central parts of Central America, going all the way down to Eastern Colombia and to large portions of Venezuela. And as my article there shows, you can see the original technocrats map that they released in 1940, clearly showing this effort to control the entire continent. And it's similar to different concepts people may have seen over the years, especially if you've been in this research, talk of, say, the North American Union, things like that. But what I think is unique, and the reason this matters, okay, it's a movement from 100 years ago. How is that relevant to 2026 and what Trump is doing now? I think it's relevant because not only is Trump surrounded by the various technocrats that I know you've covered on the show, such as Peter Thiel, obviously Elon Musk. Elon Musk's grandfather, Joshua Hadelman, was actually involved in the technocracy movement in Canada, was one of the directors of Technocracy Incorporated. And so you have those sort of connections, but also you have this aide, this advisor to Trump, Stephen Miller.
We'll leave it there. I will say I instantly followed Derek after I caught that clip. I was like, this guy is on point. But anyway, take it away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you want to understand, to me, when you see how, okay, Greenland, Venezuela, all of these pieces of this map are coming together, and you see, wait a minute, I'm sorry, there was a plan. There was a plan written out decades ago, and they have a map on how they're actually going to carry this out, and it just, all the technocratic pieces needed to come together in order for this to happen. And now Palantir and digital IDs and biometrics and monitoring and all of those pieces are coming together to form this perfect storm for them to, roll out this technate. It's like, wait a second. It's like what we were saying before with COVID. Wait a minute, they knew about this ahead of time. They were having meetings about this a year before.
Are you guys watching Fallout by any chance?
No, I want to finish like
where
the
it's
game.
literally
I want
like
to finish
a pre-planned dystopia.
I want to finish the games. Like one of our producers, Philip, it's one of his favorite games ever, and so I've just heard it's unbelievable. So I've been like waiting to watch that because I want to finish the games first before I ever do that. But yeah, it's like all pre-planned, so you know that it's coming, right? They're having meetings about COVID. They're having meetings decades ago and mapping out this technate, how all of the Western Hemisphere through North America is going to be controlled by basically a group of oligarchs. They'll pretend that they're countries, but it's really oligarchs.
And you can see that this week in the World Economic Forum that's meeting in Davos, Switzerland.
Absolutely.
The conversation around AI and how it will break down laws and religion. Well, those are the ways in which we currently organize our identity. We are Americans because we have a constitution that defines the laws inside our country. And, you can debate whether or not we're a Christian country, but it was founded as a Christian country. If those things have been broken down because AI can define them better, we do have a borderless society. And who then is at the helm? I was reading Amy Coney Barrett's book recently. She says that there was an amendment in the late 1800s to rename the United States. This amendment never passed, but the United States, not the United States of America, but the United States of Earth. So this definitely has been somebody's agenda for over 100 years. You're right.
Well, I felt the same way as when Clayton was explaining. It's like all of a sudden you see this map and you see this obviously plan that's been put in place, and it's like it kind of hits you. Part of me is like, how come I didn't notice this before? But then the other part of me is like, why would I? Who would have kind of thought that? I mean,
yeah,
I see the pieces, but now it's like in Star Wars when the walls are slowly coming. It's like it's all putting us all in the middle now, and I'm actually seeing these things linking up and connecting, and it's strangely fascinating, but it's also obviously very alarming.
It's funny because I was thinking about the analogy is growing up. It's going to date myself, but we watched this movie called The Hobbit all the time, but it was animated.
Oh, I remember that.
It was animated because they didn't have the technology yet to make it look realistic enough to actually make it come to life, right? So these ideas have always been in place. It's just whether these technologies can come together and uniformly make these kinds of changes that they really want to enact.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point. And then you wonder who's really running the show. And if you understand now that we're on Earth, at least, we're being run by this like small group of billionaire tech oligarchs, then you really gain insight into what the mission, the goal is, because it's not about like.
I think we're down to 6 of them. Is it? Andreessen mentioned 6 names. I mean, I forget how many we're down to, but
yeah, what is it like? Larry Ellison, Elon Musk. I mean, that's really who's just.
You got Zuck, and you got Google, and then you got whatever.
Yeah, our favorite Bill Gates.
Yeah, Andreessen, obviously.
But hey, they put the No King sign up on the hill at the summit, so we're good.
There we go. That will suffice.
Well, I've been lately thinking about, I'm kind of obsessively thinking about this idea, not an idea. I really, and the people that I've interviewed now on the show multiple times, different experts on this, say that we are absolutely living in a simulation. And we just watched The Matrix last week with a group of friends who they had never seen it, or his wife had never seen it before. And so we were watching it through her eyes in a lot of ways. And once you realize that we are operating within this like chaos matrix on purpose, where they're keeping us at this like strategy of tension level to create anxiety and chaos, and it's feeding this beast. You can go one level higher, like where David Icke believes, through his research and interviews and everything that he is, that we're literally being run by a race of reptilians. And this is all a
I
simulation.
watched his the yellow shirt lecture that he did, 3 hours long, about the moon and all that. I remember him from eons ago. So I'm very familiar with David Icke.
He's an original.
Well,
And I
you're
can speak to
helping
you guys
us.
about simulation. We'll have to talk offline. I have things, to share.
Well, you're speaking my language now, because the simulation theory is one of the things that I've always been very fond of. And the farther we go into this, the more I'm like, okay, I think this is kind of like a big Truman Show that we're all just in.
Can I ask you, do you find that comforting or do you find it terrifying? Because sometimes I can find that comforting when I see things that I find so disturbing, especially in the type of work we do. And I think maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe we'll get
I was
another
going to say, I mean,
shot.
sometimes it is comforting in a strange way. And because it's such a crazy thing that it's like, doesn't really matter what I do. You know, it's like, it's almost like a Jesus take the wheel in a way, but it's like, I doesn't matter. Like it's so out of my control anyways, that it's almost comforting. But then you start to think about it, and
I disagree.
You know,
180 degree guy. This is
find
the
it
problem.
upsetting.
I think this is a self-organizing universe, and in a self-organizing universe, the feedback loop is us. So we still have to do the good to become God.
I agree.
So
And
we have to do the goodest thing, regardless of the situation, because that is what's going to be the feedback to help create the growth of the thing as it evolves, just like we evolved.
But that's an amazing way to ascribe meaning to so many things when we don't. I search for it all the time, and so I love that.
Yeah.
well, in the interview with David Icke that I did, it's going to be like 3 hours long almost. I think it's one of the most profound interviews I've ever done. And it's going to come out probably in the next week or so. And
We haven't talked yet. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
he, sorry. Yeah, I haven't done
Present company excluded.
Present company excluded. And I meant me interviewing somebody else, but yeah. So, I said, are we living in a simulation? Can you say with certainty? And he said 100%. Like there was not a quiver in his voice based on his 36 years of this and 100%. And I said, well, then, what agency do we have? Because if you've ever read Michael Newton's work, Journey of Souls, where the idea is that he's, hypno-regressed thousands of patients, and they've all said the same thing almost, that when you die, you go through this like tunnel and you're brought back and you karma and you're coming back to work on something that you've gone through in your life. And I said that to David and he said, yes, but it's total bullshit. And he said, the reason is that it's total bullshit is that you're being kept in this Buddhist samsara wheel where they're controlling you and they want you to come back to create additional chaos. And so you're being kept in this like perpetual loop of being within this like narrow vision of where things are. You're coming back to work on something, but they keep you in this loop. He said the real trick is to realize that that's what's happening and to break free of it. And then once you break free of it, that's when you have unlimited agency and you're able to make massive change and to really sway other people to break free of this. So that's his thesis based on 36 years of experience doing this and his awakening.
But it's human nature to find these paradigms to fit your worldview into. That's why people ascribe to religion, right? Bad things happen. This is God's will. And certain end of the world doctrines are like, well, this is only temporary. We're going to get to this other level of being. And so I'm always careful where I'm like, this makes sense to me. I find it very comforting. Is it too comforting? Is it too limiting that I won't be able to see something outside of this paradigm because I need it to describe this messed up world that we live in?
Well, it's a programming. His point is like that's a programming.
Right.
Like, so I need to be boxed into Buddhism, or I need to be boxed into Catholicism, or I need to be boxed into this thing. And it's programming to keep you in this narrow field.
I did an interview today with Kurt Metzger from the Jimmy Dore show.
Oh, God, I love
comedian.
him.
Come on.
And I was telling him,
so before we continue, we're exchanging Rolodexes, right? Because I might have a single name that you guys might want.
yeah.
Mark,
This was actually my first time talking to Kurt Metzger, and he is wild. You probably know this. And we were talking about these various paradigms because he and I both were raised Jehovah's Witnesses. And like, how do you break free of that and then find something new when you realize that Jehovah's Witnesses have an explanation for everything because of their doctrine? And that's very comforting. And I talked to him about Michael Newton. He's like, that makes me feel worse. The whole idea that we might be in this simulation and we keep coming back and like, oh, this time I'm going to be a victim of sexual harassment or whatever. This time I'm going to be someone who hurts children or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, that. So I guess because of that conversation, I'm like, well, you're right. We shouldn't really lock into anything, really. And if it makes me feel too comforted, then I'm going to have to like skirt to the edges of it. I don't know. I'm always in
but
this.
But it depends on what you come. If you believe that reincarnation is to experience everything, I mean, there's some thoughts where the reincarnation isn't to experience everything. It's just to better yourself every time.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of different interpretations of how one comes back or what one does when they do.
Right.
Right.
I love
Kurt.
Kurt.
You're still in this narrow.
Right. And I get what you're saying too, Clayton. Very good point. I think those are forces that are enacting upon us. And I think you can break from that, like you mentioned, but it's like forces. It's almost like good and evil. It's like they're trying to keep you there, but you can break. I think you can break from that.
Yeah.
Something we definitely need to talk. If you know Bobby Azarian's work, he wrote a book called The Romance of Reality.
No.
And it's about, he was on Rogan. I'll share the information with you guys offline, but really interesting podcast I did with him. I could connect you. He's phenomenal about a self-organized universe. Kind of, it's a long story. We'll talk later about it.
I'm writing it down.
Without opening a giant can of worms, Natali, where do you stand? If you were raised Jehovah's Witness, where do you stand now?
I'm not exactly sure. One of the comments, one of my
best answer.
Yeah, I'm always seeking. I came across this word recently, the Greek word aporia, which Socrates defined as the constant state of breaking down what you think you know. And so you never know anything for sure. And I think what Socrates says was the root of all wisdom, is admitting what you don't know and being willing to break down what you think you do constantly. And I don't know if I will ever get to the place where I'm like, oh, this is it. This is what I believe. And I think that, in the last year, because of the reemergence of the Trump administration and this sort of rise of conservatism and nationalism and pride, which in many ways I think has been a good thing, we also saw a resurgence of Christianity. And then that also happened around the assassination of Charlie Kirk. But then we also saw who co-opted those movements as well. And that,
Correct,
I think that you saw that the people who showed up to his memorial are now being tracked and fed Israeli propaganda to be Christian Zionists. You see people who are going to certain evangelical churches now are, in this feed because their phones are being tracked.
The Esther Project, Shabbat Shalom.
All of it. And so, I want to be inspired by people's spiritual journeys and not judge them. But at the same time, I'm very worried about them being co-opted because the CIA has co-opted American churches from the beginning. That's
so
age old.
And that's the thing, people are so impressionable. And when you can keep them in a state of like chaos, low vibration, then you can control them. And that's really the ultimate move by these power players, is they want total control. You can control them through technology, through 6G, 5G, all of it. And one thing that's really occurred to me through my interviews and research is that we were in if you study like the information wars and false flags going back, hundreds of years, we've really now moved to a place where information war is being really replaced by AI and artificial intelligence war and control. Yeah. So instead of having to like feed you something and hoping, Jake, that you'll read something or you'll see it on CNN through programming of constant, Pfizer does this, Pfizer does that, forget that. Now just AI will control how you think. And you'll basically hand over your thinking to a brain that's outside of you, like an external brain, maybe that's even fused with you, like this AI fusion. mean, that's where they're headed, is this idea of AI fusion with biology, so that you can just outsource your thinking. And
we
don't
talked
need-
about that. Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, just that that's where we're going. Instead of having someone to hope that you'll stumble across a book or newspaper articles of propaganda. No, now we'll just control you and we'll implant you with this information.
No, I'm right there with you. We talked a couple episodes ago with couple of gentlemen much smarter than myself, and we were talking about emergent versus fundamental consciousness and AI and getting into all this and microtubules and what you're talking about, where it's starting to blend with biology, and how AI is going to basically need biology to be able to keep this trajectory going, because it's getting to a final point here where it's not accelerating as fast as it once was, supposedly. But the David Icke thing, to go back, I'm looking forward to that one. I'm guessing it's going to be a two-parter.
I don't know. I need to talk to my team about that. I don't know the benefit of putting it out in 2 parts or not. I guess.
Come on, Scott Horton did a 10.5-hour podcast with Lex Friedman. You can do a 3-hour, and I watched 8 of it in one shot. So please put it out in one shot. We're good.
Have you guys had Chase Hughes on?
I don't think so.
No.
Chase Hughes is the preeminent person about psyops, and he was on Sean Ryan's show just recently. His background is in studying these and breaking them down. He's an amazing interview. But I was trying to do my best segue and get into a 2-parter, because the next clip that Mark has is from a 2-part you guys did, or that Clayton did. And getting back to simulation theory and some of the more kind of, I don't want to say out there stuff, because I'm definitely believe this is what's going on. But you guys did an interview with a guy that went by the name JP, and you did a 2-parter, and I was going through the stuff to try and clip it, and there were so many things to grab. The whole thing about the moon, I went that blew me away. But there is one clip.
David Icke one, the early days David Icke about the moon. It is bonkers, man.
But I want to play this clip and then see how much of what else is there to the story that maybe didn't even make it to air when you did your segment. But go ahead, Mark.
Yeah. So 2 points, if I may, before I play this. First of all, is they get you feeling overthinking. You can't use reason when you're feeling. So that's how they drum up the emotional side of ourselves, right?
That's a
the
smart
first
way
part.
to put it, isn't it?
Yeah.
The second part of that is watch what they do to their children. If they stitch their children with this stuff, then you do it. But if they don't, like they're not letting their kids on social media, then you don't do it with your children. Watch what they do with their children. That's what you do with your child.
Well, when you heard that these vaccine makers don't even give their kids the vaccine, that they're like
exactly
that's a huge tell, right?
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And that's the other thing is, like, you talk about these people, like Zuckerberg talks about the social media. They don't let their children on that, and they knew those. We've seen how much damage those things have done, and they knew that going in. Yeah. And they still did it, right? So it's what they do with their people that's how you measure what you do with your people. So I'm going to hit this clip, and then we'd love to hear your thoughts on the other side. So thank you again.
Well, I want to go back. I want to go. I want to go talk about the underwater piece of this, and then we got a lot to unpack here. But so, in a military capacity, how were you transported there? How did those missions come up? Like, you just wake up one morning and JP, we're going to go see a massive UFO that's hundreds of thousands of years old. So get your rain gear. Like, how does that unfold?
Sometimes it's through the phone, or sometimes it's just straight up, hey, they want you in this area. I'm working in South Korea. Hey, they need you in this area. So I leave, I meet up, they make you change into black tacticals.
You were with other special forces at the time?
It's weird because it's civilian, special forces, you got Rangers, you got airborne troopers, you got Marine recons, you got, I don't know if they want to call themselves Delta Force. It's like a mixture of people with different talent. It's not just Army.
Yeah.
So most people say, oh, it's just one. No, it's all branches. And then you got international people from different countries involved.
Well, that's the real story here too, is that we're all, you know, we talk about these boogeymen like, oh, we have to hate Russia, we have to hate China, but we're all working together, right? We're all working together. Russians, we're all on the same page with this stuff, right? A lot of times.
Well, the thing is, we have to, Clayton, because these are things that we don't understand.
That I watched both of those back to back right away when they first came out, and the first thing that came to my mind, and I want to have you provide any additional stuff that maybe we didn't get to see, but like when somebody like that comes to you or you find somebody like that, how do you vet somebody like that to make sure that when you're going to go on and interview them and talk to them, that you can say with certainty that you know that what they're saying is true, or that they at least strongly believe what they're saying themselves? Like how do you even go about that?
Well, you know, that relationship, that whole interview has come, that took years. That's maybe that's about 3.5 years in the making.
Wow.
So that's a lot of back and forth with different people that know people who worked closely with him. And so conversations for years before that ever happened. And actually that interview was supposed to happen like 1.5 years ago. And then the kibosh got put on it by his superiors in the military. There were some forces inside the military who wanted this out there. And then they found out that he was talking to me through an intermediary, and that got squashed. And then it slowly started to come out that as this disclosure movement was happening. So anyway, it was just like a lot of back and forth, looking at documents, looking at discharge papers, like all of his credentials and all of those things. And then, you know, it's not for me to say, oh, everything he's saying is true, you know, or maybe it's all false, or maybe it's all true. And now I'm trying to tell his story, and then, you know, we all have to be a judge of it, right? And it was amazing because when the interview hit, the comments were overwhelmingly positive. And then I was alerted by a source that we were hit then with a bot attack on purpose. Oh. And then suddenly we got hit about 2.5 days later with just all sorts of fake negative comments that were coming from, there were 2 different like bot attacks on it to try to squash the interview. So that sucks. You know?
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you put so much work into it.
Like it's not hard enough to be pissing into the ocean of podcasting or getting a message out, right? Like you need to like them to hold it in the bucket and throw it back in your face. What's going on here?
Oh man. But there's some powerful people that find, when you're exposing that this technology exists and that we have access to it. And there's this movement towards disclosure that people want for the good of humanity, for us to have access to med beds, or, you know, whether there is healing technologies or advanced propulsion technologies or free energy when people can't pay their bills. And wait a minute, you know, I can, like Nikola Tesla, just etheric energy, and I can power my house.
The murder of those 2 professors at MIT and Brown.
Yes.
Is it Brown or Columbia or Brown?
MIT.
Yeah.
MIT and Brown. Is it Brown or Columbia? That's the one I always mix up. Anyway,
I think there were
the
2 MIT
Portuguese
professors.
guy was
MIT.
Yeah.
MIT, yeah.
So anyway, but one of them was was it fusion technology? Something on the cusp of some kind of fusion
plasma
technology.
Yeah.
And you're just, they found him, killed himself without the walls closing in, of course. He just upped and decided to kill himself without, to find him in the nice package storage bin. It's like, God, can you at least try? Like, I remember they tried back in the day. There was a blood trail, or there was like a footprint or 2, like something. No, we just find the guy dead in a car in a box.
Right.
Okay.
Or they would leave passports in the rubble of a building that are unburned.
How many passports have made it? The Tesla guy, right? Last year, the Tesla guy was a passport. His passport made it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so there's powerful forces, of course, that want to make a lot of money off of this. What you'd be doing is you'd be upending the massive oil and gas, industry, right? You'd be upending the biopharmaceutical.
It would be a disruption. It certainly would be a weird disruption at first. But the other side of it would be glorious if we could all just buckle down together and literally 2 weeks to stop the spread. No,
right.
I'm just, obviously, but I mean, like, we just literally stuck together and we could just fight through that. We could do it.
And you think about the limits of people's like acceptability, right? Like, I can believe that the CIA runs the drug trade. I can believe that the FBI protects Epstein. I can believe all this stuff. But then they hit a wall with anything supernatural that they can't understand. And they're like, that's a bridge too far. And, you know, I think most of us maybe have felt like that for a long time. We don't want to talk about things that seem crazy. We don't want to be called crazy by our contemporaries. But the longer that you study what the government has actually done, cloud seeding in Vietnam, that kind of stuff, you're like,
they do it at UAE
anything's
right now.
possible.
They even admittedly do it in Dubai. They admittedly do it.
Right. I mean, but that's that was one of our military tactics during the Vietnam War was to flood enemy trails with cloud seeding. You know, you read the history of the fluoride industry. You read the history MK Ultra. Nothing is crazy when you get this far. And then, like Clayton said, you just don't care anymore what people say. I mean, maybe a little bit in our neighborhood drop off, that kind of thing. I don't want to bring any, stigma on my children. I don't want to talk about this stuff. And, we go to an annual elementary school fundraiser and Clayton, and I'm like, don't bring up 9/11. Let's just
don't talk about Tower 7.
Let's just not do it.
I can't wear my Building 7 T-shirt. Right.
Right.
No, I mean, when I saw the stuff with JP, like to me, that and all of the stuff we were talking about simulation, like all that stuff to me goes hand in hand. Like it all goes together. And to your point, Natalie, like I've gotten to a point where maybe it's a desensitization, but nothing shocks me anymore. Like I see stuff and I'm like, okay, good, well played. Nothing really catches me to the point where I see it and I'm like, oh, okay, I never thought of it that way, but nothing is like, oh my God, I can't believe that's happening. I believe
there's very little that you're like, no.
Well, at a high level, right? It's crazy to think that we're being run by reptilians, right? This idea of David Icke, but and not just him, many, many others, right? This idea that it's all a simulation. Underneath that, though, you've even got things like Colonel Towner Watkins, who, great friend of the show. Her whole idea, and it's not an idea, it's based on Operation Gladio and all these NATO stay-behind armies that are there on purpose to create this strategy of tension and to keep us in this, tension, chaos, right? And so when you start to see it through that lens and you start to see, oh, there's different strata here, because they want us down here fighting in the minutia, right? About Somalians and Minnesota and all this, and this, and they want us down here fighting.
As we bombed Somalia a record number of times last year.
Yeah.
Can we remind anyone that anyone even bring that up?
No, we can't.
Dave DeCamp.
Forget about the
exactly,
Peace Prize,
Dave.
right?
And I've had Dave on our show too. Dave's phenomenal. Just shout out to Dave DeCamp, Kyle Anzalone, antiwar.com, Scott Horton, Dave Smith, all those guys. And
those guys are
they're
great.
doing a great job.
But they want us focusing on those things. When you see like Colonel Towner Watkins and what she said, that it's all part of the strategy. So they cannot have a Charlie Kirk, right? Charlie Kirk is a massive thorn in the side of that strategy of tension, because he's at these events bringing people together who are seeing the light about things, realizing that there's this uniparty, realizing that they're all playing us, right? And so he's a huge thorn in the side of these people. And once you see it through that lens, you start to say, who are the powers that be? What are the major machine forces over top of this as this umbrella that are manipulating all of this? Because they're powerful forces that I believe killed Charlie Kirk. And
I think it was just a trans thing. That's the only one that's the only thorn inside. He was only thorn inside a trans agenda.
That's
Come on, Clayton.
How many
it's
bullets?
For them
How
now.
dare you not go along with the state's narrative on this?
How many bullets do we need
rifle,
to have? With written with
things.
phrases,
right?
The text messages to his lover.
Yeah, I mean, it's
my love.
That to me is so. I follow Clint Russell's work on this topic, and he's
he's killing it.
A dog on a bone with this, man. He just will not.
We had Clint on too, and unfortunately Jake wasn't able to make it. We got him rescheduled later, but he's so busy right now. But it's just great, and I called him out on Cash, by the way, because I met Cash at Freedom Fest 2024, and he was on a panel, and I'm like, that guy doesn't smell right, and I don't mean that in a physical way. There was something off about that guy where he just is there to please people. He is a people pleaser. He will do whatever it takes to get on whoever's, because he was bullied as a kid. You could tell clearly he was like bullied as a child.
Oh yeah.
No, it's just one of
axe
those
to grind. Oh,
Yeah.
for sure, because he's all about the optics, and you can tell it in insecure people. Like
But he was
Waiting
so
for the
good,
jacket,
though.
waiting for the jacket to get off the plane. Did you
Yeah.
guys? I'm sure you
yeah.
guys heard that
Oh
story.
yeah,
right?
he couldn't go there until he had the FBI jacket that someone brought him, and it was a junior size jacket or whatever.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a medium from a female.
Whoever
agent.
handed him that one had to have been a practical joke. Like, let's just see what he does.
Yeah. But he was so good on Crossfire Hurricane, so I did
right.
put a little stock in like, well, this guy has seen some stuff. And he took a lot of flack for that. And they kept coming after him. And he was like, well, that's how I know I'm over the target. And, it's disappointing. It's disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I
And
know that
Danny Boy coming back. Oh, we're waiting for this. Like, who followed you in the first place, man? I don't understand 7.3 million followers. I just don't get it. Help me understand that. Love them or
I
hate
know
them.
that we're gonna let you guys
Yeah.
go here in about 10 minutes if you got to go. But one of the things that we back to the stuff that JP was talking about, and I'll get off of it. But some of those directed energy weapons that he was talking about, and we've heard in other things. I watched the Age of Disclosure, and part of me, the skeptical part of me is like, there is this giant push for disclosure, and I think a lot of people genuinely want it. But there also seems to feel like a manufactured push of this disclosure. Like, we're going to spin it this way and this way. And it's so much disinformation involved in it that I don't know that we're really going to get to it. I saw a clip the other day. Someone said that, was it the UK is preparing for Trump to announce disclosure. And I was like, okay, this is part of the game part of it. But I think you guys covered it, because it seemed like during this Venezuela kidnapping coup thing that they used those type of weapons on some of the people there.
Yeah. So they use these directed energy weapons that they've had for decades. These are well known. We're not the only ones that have them. Russia, China have them as well. And these so we have these really powerful weapons. What we used in Venezuela is literally like ancient technology at this point. The stuff that we have that you haven't seen is far more advanced. And so again, we have this cabal, this relationship. We off of the coast of Venezuela, as JP was talking about, there are these large arcs there. One of these large arcs, there's the Chinese, the Russians. I knew days ahead of time that there were nuclear submarines, that Russia had nuclear submarines right there. And then it was confirmed a few days later. So we're all in cahoots on all of this stuff. We have it. We have this technology. They have their own craft that they've retrieved. We have our own. We've shared a lot of this technology. So all of this like manufactured chaos between us and China and Russia, it's all garbage, because we have such powerful weapons that are so far more advanced than nuclear technology. I mean, it makes it look like hundreds of year old technology is what is nuclear weapons at this point.
Yeah, but war keeps the population down. I mean, that's really what the beauty of it is. Like, you keep culling off the top, right? Like, it's great. It's a great way to do it, and then recycle the population under this new thing as you have these baby boomer generation again, right? Like, it makes sense. Sure, keep doing it. I mean, it's a way to keep controlling us and really manufacture our consent.
One thing you were asking about is the moon-based stuff, and that's something I've been so fascinated about for many, many years, is the idea of the moon base. And, and I was really wanted to get there with JP. I said, I wanted to kind of save that for the end, because that was, that we're all cooperating. There's multiple moon bases. We're there, and we're able to, that we've been there for many, many years. This is not like a new thing. Well, and he's not the only source I've talked to on this. I've talked to multiple sources who have been a part of the secret space program, who've been there, who've operated on transporting there either through these Stargate rooms, these jump rooms to get there, or most oftentimes these large craft, these large triangular shaped craft that can get there in no time. So that to me is
could those Boeing astronauts who were stuck up there for whatever that amount of time been like actually have gone to the moon instead?
They didn't buy the right
Boeing
pass.
they didn't have the triangle, so they just had like a standard way to get there.
Right.
So they needed like cover. So they got them stuck up there.
Yeah.
Where I start to go with it, especially Clayton, when you're talking about like the collaboration between all the larger powers, like to me, and we go back to what we were talking about earlier with the minutia and keeping everybody distracted. And one of my biggest passions and one of the biggest things that I get the most upset about is the Federal Reserve and the history of money manipulation and sound currency and all that. And I almost wonder, and maybe this is crazy, but if we're in that much collaboration with these other countries and we have this much technology that we all kind of share, it seems like all this debt that's being passed around is more of a game. And there's really, yes, there's going to be some real world consequences for us in the minutia, but it seems like this is just all part of just the game. If we have these kind of weapons and we have these kind of technology, it's almost like sitting at the kiddie table at Thanksgiving, worrying about the Federal Reserve to a point. And it bothers me because I'm passionate about it, but it seems, at least that's how I'm feeling about it, but by learning this new information.
But could it be that because the deflation of the American dollar makes us all have to work harder, it's a theft from us?
Oh, yeah.
And so what you're saying is that
Well, it keeps us in a perpetual state.
They steal from us to make our lives harder so that we are slaves.
Yep.
But they don't have to do it. They don't have to borrow because there already is a global cabal that is in cahoots. That's what you're saying.
That's kind of how I feel. Like the more I watch this stuff unfold and talking about watching these things kind of on a collision course for each other, like when I see that we have these collaborations with these countries that are supposedly our enemies, we all share this technology and we all kind of know who has what.
Yeah.
It really does.
You feel like the ship has sailed. Like we might have once had leaders
who
could have affected a small G government, who could have avoided income tax, who could have avoided national debt. And it doesn't matter anymore because even if we get one now, it's too far. That's what you're saying.
Is there UFO technology that skips from 1912 to 1914? That's all we need.
Those 2
Literally,
years.
Exactly.
We're talking about
years.
the 16th, 17th, and amendments and the creation of the Fed in 1930. Can we just cut that? Jump that year. We don't need to go back in time. We don't need to just go forward a year. Just go back.
On time travel, because this is I'm obsessed with it. But speaking to a source on this. Hasn't been on the show, and I want to go deeper into it, but there are rooms, and I'm not allowed to reveal where these rooms are yet and where these states are in the United States, but there are time travel rooms where, like large rooms, they're labeled like 1950, 1920, and they're soldiers.
Like that movie or that TV show with the drummer with that one.
Yeah. They're going into the upside down.
Yeah, they're going into these places and they're coming out in the uniforms of the day and in clothing that respects the time period and all of this sort of stuff. So I really would love to learn more about this. And we don't, we think of time as like this linear path, but there's a way to, sort of move back and forth between these timelines and to go back to 1913 and say, sorry, Woodrow, you're not doing this. You're not going to give the keys over to the Federal Reserve.
But no one in power, that's not in their interest. You'd have to get a normie who, that's in
and
their
someone who's not
interest.
Woodrow Wilson's wife also.
Right. My
see,
daughter,
Natalie,
my 13-year-old.
I'm back to the nothing surprises me now.
Yeah, right.
I was just going to say, my daughter is starting to learn about Andrew Jackson, and I was lecturing her I was picking her up from dance class last night, and I was explaining, I was like, this is the last time in American history where we had a president that put his foot down on public debt. Zero public debt. That's the last time we've had zero public debt in the United States, and fought against the banks, fought against the banking cabal, and went to great lengths to fight against this idea of the banks controlling the United States. And they hated him for it, of course. So, I don't know if you need a normie for it, but you need someone with balls who's not bought and sold by these people.
Yeah. But history says
it seems like a systemic issue at this point, doesn't it? I mean, it's
Yes,
Mark, did you have
maybe we can end this on an up because
let's white pill this thing.
We are having this conversation. This would not have happened 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago. Even people who understood this didn't have the technology to discuss it. We live in different states.
Thank you, important in history.
Right.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I forgot.
So
You guys forget VHS and streaming was literally driven by the porn industry.
That's right.
How
That's
how
right.
VHS beat Betamax.
Yeah.
By the way, if everyone.
Oh, that's right.
And so, we can discuss it and the conversation does grow. And there is a resistance. We are all a part of it. And, you think of when, I don't know, at least we can spread the message now while we still can. And so we're not in our basement with a tin hat being called crazy. We have a camaraderie around.
Well, even 9/11. I mean, think about you were called. Oh my God, you're a 9/11 truther. You're one of those nut jobs.
Oh, yeah.
And now I can literally joke
Building
about building 7. And
Your
we can
point,
talk
yeah.
about this openly. Now I'm 100% convinced that there was a conspiracy, that those guys didn't pilot those planes, that the government was in collusion to bring down those buildings and to throw us in a perpetual state of war. Without
Operation
a doubt.
Northwood sealed it for me when I heard about that with their fake airplanes that they were going to do back in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, Clayton? Do you think that it's?
Cuban Missile Crisis.
Do you think it's the government as the government that we see, like George Bush was in on, or do you think it's people that are behind him, that the quote unquote deep state, that where he really had no idea about it?
I think it's absolutely the intelligence community and state that is the permanent government, George W. Bush is just a parcel of it, a piece of it. Yes, collaborating with the Dick Cheneys who put into place the Patriot Act before the Patriot Act existed, years before. It was all part of a neocon plan. So all of those pieces come together. He's in many ways a patsy, but he's a willing patsy for it. Kind of a boob, but there's deep intelligence community forces that are running the show. Absolutely. 100%, without a doubt. And they're demonic, really satanic and demonic, and they control it.
It's a continuation of government that fills in these puppets and tells them to sell it, is basically how it seems to be.
Yeah, or they have blackmail on them, or the people that rise to those levels, you're never going to rise to that level
You're
unless you
person.
have the yes money, the Cash Patel money, the people, the puppets pulling you the strings behind.
You mean the Alexa Wilkins money? How dare you? She's a superstar.
She's a country
Clayton.
music legend.
Rock's legend.
Natalie was trying to end this on a positive, and we just took it right back.
Well, that's
We'll
our,
wipe it
I
up.
mean,
No, we'll wipe it up.
we're still,
I'm still
No.
positive.
So,
yeah.
So please, once again, guys, this has been so pleasurable. I could talk for hours, but we don't want to take. Hopefully, we can have another conversation scheduled down the road.
Sure.
Maybe do it hours at a time, an hour at a time, or something. But thank you so much. Could you share all of your stuff so everyone knows who you are? Because no one could possibly know who you were if you were watching.
When they asked us to do this, I was like, "Do you want one of us at a time?" Because sometimes we talk over each other, or and they're like, "No, try it together." So this went well, I think, right?
She didn't talk over me.
Yeah.
This is great.
No, you guys are great. You guys have a great flow. It really is this amazing. I see how I even watch the cues between each other, and there's such a natural, just a beautiful thing. It's really a pleasure to watch.
And I truly obviously you have an amazing program, an amazing product and company that you've built. But for me, when I was talking with Natalie, is like, I really want to know what's behind that, what makes you guys tick. So getting to see you, and you're hearing your story about meeting and starting this thing and have all these, these life adventures and this story together. That's the part that really was the most enjoyable for me. So I'm glad you guys did it together.
Oh, thanks. I mean, a lot of it is, sometimes I feel trapped. I wish that we didn't have to do this work and I would quit. A lot of times I'm like, I don't want to. When we bombed Iran last year, I was like, this is for nothing. What's it matter if we get on the internet? The anti-war movement is lost, and I was really dark. But we have 3 kids, and we have to try to leave them a better world. And so it's, your children are your biggest blessing in your life, but they also push you, and you can never quit when you become a parent. And so a lot of that is why we do this, because we feel like we have to be a part of this resistance. We can't live with ourselves otherwise. And you can't read the things that we read and talk to the people we talk to and just sit there, like, this is fine. I'm going to go to Costco. So that's really, when you asked what makes us tick, it's, it's the family. I think that's why anybody comes to a show like ours.
It's the meaning and the purpose. I kind of what you're talking about. And we'll talk more about that, where we're talking about how we kind of view the universe, and how I think we'll have some interesting conversations.
Would love that.
But it's funny. The last 2 Freedom Fests are just interesting, if I may. Trump got shot at the first one, 2024. Last year, Scott Horton is all the way across the convention center when Iran bombs, and he goes, "They effing did it! Those MFers did it!" And you could just hear him literally yelling across the entire convention center, and you're just like, "Oh, that was Scott Horton." By the way, anyone who didn't know, that was
love
Scott.
it.
It's a
Love
beautiful
Scott.
thing. So, once again, thank you again, guys. Redacted News. Jake, any final words before we call it?
No, I know you have some Victoria Newland clips you want to play later, so we can get into that stuff. But thank you guys again for the time. We're very gracious to have you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Another time, not a worry. We are so grateful. Thank you so much, guys. Stick
Thank
around,
you, guys.
please, for after this. We've got an outro, but we just want to talk a little after. So thank you again, everyone. This has been another If by Whiskey. All right, Clayton, let's hear that. I'd love to hear your version of that, if I may.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this Wednesday night. This has been If by Whiskey, and we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Clip that.
I can't. I'm clipping that for sure. Thank you guys so much. Everyone else, have
Subscribe to If by Whiskey. Fuck Liberty
Oh, thank
Lockdown.
you.
Subscribe to this show.
No, come on!